This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
Welcome to a live edition of the Out of Bounds podcast here on Wednesday, February 4th. I'm Nate Sharman with Josh Durso as always, and we saw Justin Rose, 45-year-old Englishman, get the victory as he lapped the field at the Farmers Insurance Open, achieving his 13th win of his career. And Josh, before we dive into more about Justin Rose and his illustrious career in the world of professional golf, what impresses you most about Justin Rose?
Oh my God. I think, especially with the run that he's on right now, how his game has actually gotten better. You know, over a little nugget we picked up over the weekend was that between last year and this year, he's actually picked up 5 miles an hour in his golf swing at 45 years old, going from 44 to 45 and picking up 5 additional miles an hour. That allows you to basically play right up there with the guys that are in their 20s and 30s and truly in their prime. You know, it's one of the more impressive things we've seen out of golfers who have had a late career run. But now for Justin Rose, this is, you know, going on about a year and a half of a pretty serious tear.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I was watching on that Sunday round, especially. You know, he gets up on the first tee and he blasts one center stripe down the fairway, 324, right? You know, he's 50 yards ahead of Joel Damon or 40 yards ahead of Joel Damon, and it's just impressive what he's done in the amount that he's really kind of dedicated to his career. Let's talk a little bit about Justin Rose and his whole career as a whole. This tweet comes from Jason Sobel on X, and let's just list off some of his accomplishments. In his first major at 17 years old, T4. He had to battle in the PGA Tour. You know, he missed a cut in his first 21 starts, but still kept going right at it. You know, he has 13 PGA Tour wins, 11 DP World Tour wins. He won the U.S. Open in 2013. He won the gold medal at the Olympics in 2016. He's a 7-time Ryder Cup player. You know, he has 5 wins in the Ryder Cup and 23 major top 10s. I mean, it's just incredible from Justin Rose. He seems like he's checked every box in terms of competing in professional golf, whether it be on the PGA Tour or the DP World Tour, the European Tour. It's just amazing what this guy continues to do. And he almost won a major in the year 2025 at age 44. If it wasn't for Rory McIlroy at the Masters and that heroic display he put on, Justin Rose is walking away with hardware.
Yeah, and, you know, not only that, I think back to the beginning of his career, you know, the early days when he was sort of viewed as a potential tiger killer or neutralizer in the 2000s, and how it just didn't really come together as quickly as a lot of people in the golf world thought or hoped that it would. But man, he has put together, in my opinion, what is inarguably now a Hall of Fame career.
Oh, certainly. I think if you ask anybody, it's definitely shaping up to a Hall of Fame career for sure. And it's just what's really admirable to me about Justin Rose is when Liv came out, you saw a lot of the players in the back nine of their career that were European, you know, Ian Poulter, Phil Mickelson. Maybe not Phil Mickelson as much for the English side, but just there's a few different examples of guys that could have went to the Liv. They could have taken the bag, right? Taken the how much money they got. But Justin Rose said, no, I still have golf left in the tank. I want to play golf at a high level. And he talked about it too, you know, how he's still competitive, how he still wants to win. And it just goes to show how Live a little bit is, and we're going to get more into Live and what they've seen in the last week. You know, it's a little bit of, it's not as close to competitive. The history's not there. It's just, you know, the best golfers play on the PGA Tour. And I think we see that week in and week out. And it's just pretty admirable that Justin Rose said, no, I'm going to stay on the PGA Tour. I'm not going to take the money.
Yeah. And you know what? With elevated events, signature events, and all of the extra money that's been infused into the PGA Tour since Liv came along, benefited too. I mean, he's made a boatload of money. Who's to say that he would have gotten as much guaranteed money from Liv had he gone back then compared to what he has made now and what he's the number 3 player in the world right now. I know there's a lot of talk about what OWGR, what that's really worth. Is the ranking worth the paper it's printed on? It's kind of tough to look at how he has played over the last year or so and not at least think that he's one of the 5 best golfers in the world. age.
Yeah, number
Forget
three
age.
number 3 on OWGR as he woke up. He had a great tweet. He talked about how Scotty, I'm going to catch you. So it's pretty funny. But yeah, waking up on Monday morning, number 3 on an OWGR.
Yeah, and another little nugget. I know we don't have bag check today, but one of the best golfers from the last 5-6 years, who's a free agent on equipment, doesn't have any exclusive deals with any of the big manufacturers. Plays a pretty we'll call it sporadic. He's got some really old clubs in the bag. He's got some new clubs in the bag. Pretty interesting stuff there too. So Justin Rose, proven that you don't have to do it the way every other player does it. And who says that 30s is your prime? Maybe prime can be 45.
Yeah, when you pick up speed like that, as like you talked about, and still hit the ball down the center of the stripe, consistently. Let's move on talking about Brooks, and it was Brooks' first week back on the PGA Tour, and that was well documented, right? We talked about that the last few weeks on Out of Bounds, and if you watched the broadcast, you sure saw a lot of Brooks. Even though he wasn't really in contention, he did make the cut. He finished 4 under for the tournament, T56, which is kind of, I think, what we predicted for Brooks. He hit the ball pretty well. He was in the rough. He drove it poorly on Thursday, and then it really got better. He putted poorly. Tee to green, he was ranking, I think, right around 11th in tee to green per day to golf, and then I think he was in the 70s for putting. And he talked about how he's always struggled on poet greens, and these poet greens. These are poet greens, so it's just kind of shows how Brooks has struggled. Shows how Brooks has struggled on the greens here. But what was really interesting to me is more than his play, but they showed a lot of him on the broadcast, and whether he wasn't really, even on Sunday, he wasn't really in contention. I know we had a golf tournament where Justin Rose won wire to wire and never really had any doubt, so I don't know if there wasn't a lot to show, but we still saw Brooks Koepka, who was way back from the field, and we saw a lot of his rounds, and a lot of golf people didn't like that, but still, I thought that was interesting. Josh, did you like that? Did you like seeing a lot of Brooks' round? Would you have rather saw some guys at the top, maybe more Joel Damon, some more of these different storylines? What do you think?
You know what? I remember hearing those complaints when Tiger was in the field and, back 10, 11, 12 strokes. People have always complained about that in golf. At the end of the day, the product that's on TV has to be the thing that can appeal to the biggest number of possible viewers. And that means putting guys like Brooks Koepka, because he is a brand. He is an established, well-known brand, popular guy at that, on TV. That's just sort of the reality. Like this isn't a perfect world where you're going to only see the guys who are in contention. They've got cameras all over the place, but there's a limited amount of time that they can show golf swings. So yeah, you're going to see Brooks. You're going to see a lot of Brooks every week he plays, whether he plays great or whether he plays horrendous, because right now we're riding the Brooks wave, and that's just how it goes. One thing I'd like to point out here, he's probably going to play better at Phoenix, but definitely. I don't hate how he played. Like, for me, finishing the way he did, and really, like, his putting was the only thing that looked bad. Ball striking, fine. He was, middle of the pack off the tee with strokes gained. He was 20th in approach to green and 3rd around the green. So, he had, there was a lot of good signals in that golf game. I would assume that he probably feels pretty darn good coming into this upcoming tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. Phoenix is a place he's won before and he's played well before at. And I think he, definitely talked about how he had to knock the rust off, right? And we saw a different Brooks Koepka in these press conferences talking about being a father and talking about how he's fallen back in love with the game and how cool that is. We saw a more grounded Brooks Koepka, which is kind of fun. I think I talked about it here last week. It's always fun when Brooks sort of takes off the cool guy cape, right, and talks a little bit more grounded. But it just goes to show, my last thing about the TV coverage with Brooks, it just goes to show how we have a different PGA Tour. We have a different tour in terms of we're for profit now. We want to make money, and we're going to show our stars. And that's one big thing we're going to do. And whether they're 10 strokes back or within the lead, we're going to show them. And the other thing too is I think this really shows that to the other guys like Bryson and Cam Smith and Jon Rahm, who they've talked about are not going to come back through that player returning program, that if you come back to the PGA Tour, you're going to get some screen time. you're gonna get and be shown a lot. I mean, they cut that promo about how the best players play on the PGA Tour, and it didn't have Brooks Koepka in it. Brooks Koepka announces he's coming back to the PGA Tour. They recut the promo to add Brooks Koepka, and now that's blasted all over TV. So this is a direct signal in my mind to Bryson, to John Rahm, to Cam Smith, that if you come back, you come back with open arms.
Yeah. And look, I don't really think it goes as deep as now the PGA Tour is a for-profit entity, and you're going to see more things like this with how they produce television. I can literally remember back in the 2000s watching golf with my dad and my family, and and even friends in high school and college, and hearing the same complaints and seeing the same complaints on social media since Twitter existed, about showing guys like Tiger, who way back in the field, but still being put on TV on Sunday just for the sake of, because he's Tiger Woods. It's a TV product. You need to show people that, you need to show players that people actually recognize. And it's really no more complicated than that. Like, yeah, you want to show guys who are playing well. And over time, I think guys, who aren't as well-established brands, if they contend week in and week out, they're going to get shown more and more and more and more. And that's how that builds. But, to just, automatically be pissed off that Brooks Koepka is being shown the first week he's back, even though he's not contending. I mean, I would assume that a non-marginal percentage of people who watched on Sunday literally watched because Brooks Koepka was playing.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Sure.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about another guy that's coming back to the PGA Tour, another guy that has heavy brand recognition, I would say. Captain America, Patrick Reed. He's coming back to the PGA Tour. He's a little different than Brooks, right? He'll have to serve that 1-year suspension. He's not part of that player returning program, hasn't won a major in the last few years. But he has status on the DP World Tour. He's already won once on the DP World Tour. I thought he was going to win again on Sunday morning. I watched that playoff. He unfortunately made a bogey and, lost in the playoff. But he'll be able to play in PGA Tour events in late August once he fulfills that suspension. He's like Brooks. He won't be able to get into that program in terms of equity for the PGA Tour for 5 years. And it's just awesome to have a guy like Patrick Reed back, because at the end of the day, Josh, love him or hate him, the PGA Tour needs a villain. There's a lot of good guys in the PGA Tour, and I think Patrick Reed loves to play that villain card, right? That kind of bad boy attitude, right? And so I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know that he even necessarily fills that villain role anymore. I think coming back from Live, I think it enough time has passed since those days. I think, again, this is just a huge win for the PGA Tour, because, again, it's one of those brands. It's one of those golf brands that the average person who maybe only casually watches golf or casually pays attention to golf over the last 10, 15 years sees that name and goes, oh yeah, I remember him. That is what matters most. You had an interesting question. Reed on the President's Cup.
Yeah.
What do you think?
He talked about wanting to get back on the Ryder Cup team, and obviously we're in a President's Cup year, and we saw the beat down at Bethpage, right? They made it close on Sunday, but it was mostly a beat down for a lot of the week. So the Ryder Cup as a whole needs to look. I think they need to kind of look outside the box of what they've been doing, right? And so a guy like Patrick Reed, a guy who had that famous match with Rory McIlroy a bunch of years ago, where they're both just making putts from everywhere. I went back and watched that match. It's really cool. And I think Patrick Reed, I call him he's Captain America, right? That's his nickname. That's what everyone knows him by. Why not get a look? Patrick Reed, when he's on, he's got I think he might have one of the best short games in professional golf. It's ridiculous what he can do around the greens. So I think it'd be kind of fun. He kind of plays that villain, I'm here to win attitude, right? And I think it could be really good for the President's Cup team. What do you think?
Yeah, and you know what? Like I look at, I kind of look at let's go back a few years too. Like, how did he play on Live? I would say he's one of the few players with big name recognition who went over to Live and played well there. He didn't play poorly. He didn't underperform. He did not win. And like coming back now, clearly his game is in a really good place. It makes sense. I mean, especially given the fact that obviously men's U.S. team whether you're talking about President's Cup, whether you're talking about Ryder Cup. And I think President's Cup needs to be treated a bit like a feeder system for the Ryder Cup. Maybe test some different things out if you're
That's why you could bring Patrick Reed, I think.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And that actually was my point. Different. Like it did. Yeah. At this point, what do you have to lose? Like right. what, you know, like clearly bringing the same recycled names that you've brought a bunch of times over hasn't worked. And obviously we have a lot of up and comers now, guys in their 20s who are clearly looking like possible picks, if not this year, next year. So, you know, let's reinvigorate it. Let's change it up. You know, maybe he's a name, especially if he plays well coming down the stretch here over the pond there. It's worth it.
He clearly bleeds red, white, and blue, right? We've seen him play in these events and how much that means to him, right? He seems to play at a high level in these events. So one more thing about Patrick Reed, Josh, just kind of came up to me. You know, he's on the 4 aces at Live. He's leaving. Are they now the 3 aces, you think? Sorry, I couldn't help that one.
Guess so. You know, I just wanted, this is a really good segue too, I think. To me, the most interesting thing about Patrick Reed isn't necessarily the news about Patrick Reed. It's the fact that, you know, Patrick Reed was the player that kind of like exposed this opportunity that with what the DP World Tour is moving toward, or at least what reports indicate they're moving toward, is dropping fines and allowing guys who played in Live to play over there, earn their way back into the PGA Tour. This is like maybe the best case scenario for the PGA Tour. If you're the PGA Tour, think about that. Like,
right.
So top 10 players in the DP World Tour season long standings get a PGA Tour card. So they get their status. That's good, right?
Patrick Reed's already in it with that win, so he'll definitely be back next year.
Yeah, so like it creates the perfect path for players who didn't get the Brooks treatment, right? Like to go over there, play, and then the PGA Tour doesn't necessarily have to create a new path for any players who want to make that move back to the PGA Tour. And they also get to save face by not having to re-engage with the topic of creating special rules for players, which not only, you know, makes golf Twitter mad, but also makes guys who I think fall in the middle of the pack mad on the PGA Tour. So, you know, it kind of goes back to what, you know, you've said a lot throughout this whole process: play better, and you're going to be able to find your way to not just the PGA Tour, but elevated events as well. But man, what good timing if that winds up coming out of the wash here in the summer.
Yeah, Joaquin Niemann, I think we're looking at you, right? It seems like he would be a player that would be really good to come back on the PGA Tour, a guy that certainly has game, right? Another thing that was announced with the Live Tour is that they're getting OWGR points. You know, that's been a heavy point of contention, and they finally decided that top 10 players in every Live event will get OWGR points. Doesn't seem like they rank the Live events that well. You know, they rank similar to an opposite field event of the PGA Tour, maybe even a little bit slightly better than a Corn Ferry Tour event. But we talked about it the last few weeks. What do they think they were going to get in terms of ranking? And it seems like a lot of the guys aren't too happy about it. You know, they were talking to Bryson. And he was talking about how, well, I haven't had time to digest this yet. He said that a few times, and so that clearly shows that he's not thrilled with the decision. And then he says, well, at least we're getting points. You know, and so I don't know what they necessarily expected. They don't meet a lot of that. They don't meet a lot of the criteria to get a lot of WGR points, but they're getting points now.
Yeah, and I couldn't be more indifferent toward the news. You know, like you spend 2+ years bashing OWGR, calling it the most, it's an unserious, inferior system for ranking players. But now you're going to celebrate if you're Live that you're getting OWGR points. Like that makes no sense. And then, you know, the people who, you know, showing up in my Twitter feed who I've watched for 2 years now, gripe and complain that, you know, these guys aren't getting OWGR points for events. Then as soon as they get OWGR points, or OWGR says, yeah, you're good, you guys are going to get points, you know, they're coming back with, oh man, of course they waited until all the players are ranked, you know, 100 plus, and yeah, and of course they're not going to get any points. It's like, this is literally what you wanted. Like, this is legitimately what you've argued and fought for and lobbied for 2+ years. you got it. Just shut up. Like go about your life, I guess. I don't know. Like, does it change anything? My question is, like, for the guys who are playing in Live, does this change anything for them? Like, I don't think it does. I think they go about their business as they always have.
Yeah, I don't think it can change that much. I mean, any intelligent golfer, a lot of these players came over, they with the expectation they were going to get OWGR points. They should not be shocked that they're not getting a lot of them. I mean,
Yeah.
just look at the fields. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that a live field is similar to a non-elevated event or an opposite field event on the PGA Tour, right? If you look at quality of play. So I think that's really interesting. But one thing with Live, they start their tournament tomorrow. I believe that the first tournament's tomorrow. It's over in Saudi Arabia, I believe. And one thing you got to remember, Josh, they're playing 72 holes, and I think that's the big appeal with Live was when they came out was that they played 54 holes and they shotgun start, right? They're playing 72 holes, so this looks more and more like a PGA Tour event.
Yeah, and another thing with OWGR ranking, the golf courses that they're playing are not the same caliber golf courses.
Yes,
that
the
tour is
courses,
playing. Yeah. So like that's another factor. And, like I've over the last year, especially, I've, leaned into data golf more than OWGR to sort of get a sense of where players stand. And like, unless you were winning live events, you weren't really moving up in the rankings in data golf either, because data golf is using things like course condition, course difficulty as one of the factors for determining where players land. It's not just based on field. So, it's complicated, but at the same time, it just isn't. All these guys, if you want to be considered one of the best players in the world, and you play on live, I guess play all the live events and then also pick a bunch of DP World Tour events if they're going to drop fines. Play those too and try to work your work your rank up that way.
Yeah,
maybe that's the way they got to go if they're worried about that. But I don't think, I don't think the guys that are over there, frankly, care that much about that. I think golf Twitter, as we often talk about it, cares more about that than the actual players who are over there playing with live.
I would agree, and it all comes down to what I always say, right? Play better, and I think that's the case. A lot of these live guys signed up to play 54 holes, like Bryson talked about, and now they're playing 72. So that's going to be interesting to monitor. And Bryson keeps talking about, very coy about how he's got one more year on his live contract, and they're looking to find a solution, right, for the future. He hasn't said either way. It seems like he's very coy in his interviews about what he's doing next year. So that's going to be fun to monitor.
If I have a hot take that I haven't told you, I haven't said to anyone. I think that if Bryson figures out a way to win a major this year, I think there's probably a better chance that he plays nowhere next year than him playing with live or the PGA Tour. He'll have exemption into majors for at least another 5 or 6, 7, 8 years, maybe a decade for a couple of them. I have to go back and look at the numbers. And he has been adamant about the fact that he cares more about growing the game and leveraging his social media following in those social platforms than he does care about playing in any particular type of event.
Yeah,
I could absolutely see that playing out because at the end of the day, he is, like, more than anything else, he is a player that just truly beats to the beat of his own drum. He runs to the beat of his own drum.
That's for sure. And the only thing I would say to that is these guys, in order to get major evented, they like to play competitive golf, right? And you just can't simulate that. Whether it's live and they're, the speakers blasted with Pitbull music and you're wearing pants now, but you were wearing shorts. It still is a way to get ready for the tournament, right? And I think if you were to get a lie detector on Bryson, a lie detector on a bunch of these guys, it still is a good way to get in form for these major tournaments.
I think if any golfer could do it without, Bryson would be that guy.
Yeah, if anybody, you're hitting the nail on the head there. If anyone can do it, it's Bryson, right? Beating to his own drum is definitely him.
It'd be interesting to say.
Do you have anything else on Bryson? We'll talk more about him, or
no? We're good. Let's get into this Phoenix Open.
The Phoenix Open, the People's Open. The party in the desert, they call it, right? It's every year, on Super Bowl week. So it's a great way to start today on Sunday as we get into the Super Bowl and hopefully watch the Seahawks take down the Patriots. But that's for another time. Yeah, it's always a fun event to watch. These guys really buy into that 16th hole stadium course, right? And it's so cool to watch this and to go back and think about how another thing that's cool is this was Scotty Scheffler's first win on the PGA Tour. Can you believe
Yeah.
that? Not
Yeah.
5 years ago, right? And it's crazy where this event is the one that Scotty won, and it's not that long ago, and the dominance that he's had. He's a heavy favorite this week. He's won it twice, in terms of the only time he's ever missed the cut is the first time he played in it, and then he ended up winning it a couple years later. So it's pretty impressive what he's done. And do you think it's the Scotty Scheffler show again this week on the PGA Tour?
I think FanDuel had him 2-1 to win.
Yeah.
Like, I until proven otherwise, I feel like, yeah, we have to look at it that way. Like, he is playing golf at a completely different level. We saw how he looked 2 weeks ago. That was not a weak field. This is an event that he's won before. He's comfortable at this golf course. This to me is just one of those. I'd like to pick someone else other than Scotty Scheffler, and I will. My official pick this week is not Scotty Scheffler, but man, it's hard to pick against him. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, do you want to get into the pick segment here? Or?
Well, what do you think about the Scotty Scheffler dilemma? Because I think from an interest standpoint, there's a desire to see someone else do something, especially an event like this. But also, like, more than in the back of my mind is just like, yeah, Scotty's going to go out and shoot, 465s or 66s and win by 7 strokes again.
Yeah, the tournament could be over by Thursday afternoon, right, with Scotty Scheffler. And even if he does shoot par, he shows that he can shoot 65 and get right back in contention real quick.
Yeah.
I really like this event because it's just a lot of fun to watch because it's just so different. I mean, you have people throwing beers around. Joel Damon qualified for this event through a sponsor's exemption. He wrote his letter to the tournament organizers on a polo, right, where he famously took off his polo with Harry Higgs a couple years ago on the 16th green and got the crowd fired up. So, I mean, it's just a different event in that sense where these guys play, they're almost like looking at animals, right? Looking at zoo animals, and you don't bother them as much. And this tournament's a little different, especially coming down the stretch, getting ready for the Super Bowl. And I just think it's so cool. And I almost think the PGA Tour season should probably start here. What do you think about that?
I'll agree big time. You know what? Like, every year this event comes around, and I always think to myself, like, man, this is what the tour needs more of if it wants to keep growing the game the way it talks about wanting to grow the game to, like, non-golf fans. Like, this is a tournament that looks as little like a traditional PGA Tour event as any on the schedule. And, I think that's a good idea. I think opening it up at a I think I made a NASCAR comparison a couple of weeks ago. Shout out to you, Paul Russo. And I'm going to do it again. Like, NASCAR starts at Daytona, right? Like, that's, to me, you start where there's a lot of energy, and this is the place to do that.
Yeah, maybe you can get a couple non-elevated events, non-big field events going before it, but then, this PGA Tour season starts at Phoenix, right? I think that would be a good idea. Josh, let's talk about last week and our picks and our predictions, right? And go through that. We'll let you start.
Victory lap for me, because Victor Hovland did exactly what I thought he was going to do. Ludwig Aberg did exactly what I expected him to do, which was not play well at all. He had 2 rounds that were really poor, missed the cut. And I think he was in the top 5 coming into the week in terms of I think he was around plus 17 or plus 1800 Thursday morning when I looked.
Happened last year to him too. I hope it's not a future problem or a ongoing problem for Ludwig that he struggles.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that it was like I don't know if it's like an injury thing or if he was under the weather or if his golf game, like, there wasn't any reason given for that withdrawal the week before at the American Express, which was kind of a strange thing to me, but I didn't think that he would be safe money going into last weekend, and proved to be right.
Yeah, another thing you were right about, Brooks over Max and Akshay Bhatia. Akshay and Max both missed the cut. Max continues to struggle. He thought he was figuring it out, but hopefully he does it seems like the golf swing is improving for him. But another missed cut for Max. So there's another one you won too.
Yeah, and to me, that one was Akshay was the big surprise out of that. He didn't play. He didn't play horrifically, but he didn't play as well as I thought. When I said it after we got done, and I was thinking about it more that afternoon, I actually felt like I made the wrong pick. But as it turns out, it's better to listen to your gut. My gut said go with Brooks in that scenario. And after we get through our winner picks and long shot picks here, I've got a similar prop for you to think on here. So who do you have? Who's your winner pick this week?
I got Sahith Theegala. Sahith he's played very well this season. He had coming off a top 10 finish in his last event. He made his 100th cut on the PGA Tour, and he has a really cool following in terms of family and friends, right? And they were all there. They all had shirts on congratulating Sahith, and his I believe fiance, if not girlfriend, is a content creator in terms of she creates for the PGA Tour and she creates for other products too. So it's cool. He is very public facing golfer, right, with that huge support. But Sahith has played well here. He played well here as a rookie. It looked like he was going to win the tournament, and then he hit one in the water on 17, and it kind of bundled in from there. And Netflix did a really good job sort of documenting that on Full Swing. But I think it's time for Sahith to win here. And, he's got a PGA Tour win under his belt. And I think he's going to come away with a winner's circle and before the Super Bowl starts.
Give me Sam Burns at 30-1.
Sam Burns.
He's got the game to do it. He's got distance off the tee to be able to hang with a guy like Scottie Scheffler. If Scottie Scheffler is going to be, playing the way Scottie has played, he's far enough back where I don't think a lot of people are going to be thinking about whether he's going to be contending or not. So he can kind of fly under the radar. I like that too. I think maybe right now, until we see someone else come up and really, I'm not saying dethrone, but challenge Scottie in a more meaningful way. It's really a Scottie versus the field situation. Would you rather have Scottie Scheffler or the field?
Oh man, that's tough. I'm picking. I like to pick other than Scottie, but I would probably take Scottie here. It seems like he plays extremely well, so give me Scottie over the field.
Yeah. So that is pretty much what backs me into a corner with winner picks. It's hard to pick a guy who's going to win when if given the choice between the field and Scottie Scheffler, you're still probably going to pick Scottie Scheffler, which is where I am too. Yeah. Do you have a long shot pick?
I have a draft. I don't have one in front of me, but I do have a DraftKings lineup where I was looking at some guys, and I forgot to remind myself of because I did it yesterday of what they are. But I wanted to say one thing. I gave myself a lot of grief for having bad winner picks, and last week Mav McNeely top 10, so I'm on the board, right? So I finally found a guy that played well. He had a chance to possibly win that tournament earlier in the week, and then Justin Rose just went on fire. So Mav McNeely top 10, get me on the board.
I've got one that I think's worth watching this weekend. Jordan Spieth, not necessarily to win, but he's sitting around 55-1 on FanDuel. I think pretty much the same on DraftKings too. If I could see him quietly finishing top 10, maybe top 15, and I think that would be really good for golf too, because obviously professional golf is better when Jordan Spieth is playing good golf. And obviously he had the hand injury. I think it was like he had a bit of an operation either on his wrist or his hand, coming back from that. And, obviously everyone's really anxious to see how he's able to put together around this a season here. So give me Jordan Spieth to show some signs of life.
It was Michael Thorbjornsen. That's who I was thinking of. I just had to pull it up and look at it. He's played very well on tour. He's got a lot of power. He played well on TGL too. Seems to have nerves of steel, right? So we're going to see him bust through and get a PGA Tour victory, I would say, pretty soon. So kind of like him as a long shot pick. Okay,
so last one for you, Nate. I've got my prop of the week. I'm going to give you 3 players. They're all 71 to win. So this is not a will they win question. The question is, who finishes best out of the following players? Wyndham Clark, JT Poston, or Min Woo Lee?
Oh, I like the Postman. I'm
The
going to
postman.
pick the postman a lot. I think he's got a really good game. Doesn't hit it super far, but makes a lot of birdies at the same time. So I think he's got a really grounded game. I like him as as a person too. We saw him at Oak Hill sign autographs for a very long time. For every kid that wanted one. So just the postman. He's a great guy, great person for the tour, and I think he'll play the best out of that group. What do you think, Josh?
Give me, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but give me Wyndham Clark. I have dogged the man for over a year on this podcast, saying that he desperately needs to turn it around one of these weeks. I think this is going to be the week that he does it. I think he's going to finish inside the top 20.
A guy you often call Windmill Clark.
Windmill Clark. I do that from time to time. Yes. I think he's going to do it. Minwoo Lee, man. I was curious if you were going to bite on that one. Boy, he has just not looked the same since the middle of really last year. Just so far from in form. Kind of crazy for a guy that we thought was, going to be one of the big names that was fighting for not only President's Cup spots, but Ryder Cup major contention. And it hasn't really come to it.
Yeah, I know. It seems like that's a guy that can figure it out real quickly, though. I think he has all the tools, right? And his sister is really successful on the LPGA tour. I think he's got it all, and he'll be able to figure it out. But yeah, definitely hasn't had the best sort of ride here.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we do here.
Anything else, Josh?
That's all. We got to see some golf.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the Out of Bounds podcast. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube so you know when we're going live. It looks like Wednesdays are going to be our day going forward, so be able to get into what's going on the tour. Make sure you follow us here on YouTube, like I said, and then on TikTok for more golf news. And for Josh Durso, and he's Josh Durso, I'm Nate Sharman, and whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.